Hello creeps! Andy here. And I was reading the news this week and I found an article about a movie about evil mermaids. And I was like, okay, I'm interested. I need to see what this is about. Did a little bit of research and it turns out that there's a new movie on Netflix called What Lies Below. And people are very confused about it. A lot of people hate it. But there are also other people who enjoy it as well. There's a lot of mixed feelings about this movie. So I was like, I gotta watch this movie and see what this is all about. So I'm going to give you a brief summary of the film. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about specific scenes, so there will be some spoilers. I'm going to read you some quotes from the director, and then at the end I'm just going to tell you my opinion of it. So let's get started. I usually don't do movie reviews, but I thought this would be really fun because this movie has caused a lot of uproar. Okay, so let's get started. It's called What Lies Below. It is written and directed by, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Braden Dumler? It's this, however you say that. Okay, so it's written and directed by him. He has done short films before, but this is his first full-length feature film. The movie is about a girl named Liberty, a young girl. She's a teen, 16-ish, doesn't have her license yet, hasn't gone off to college, but she gets back from an archaeological dig. She's a little socially awkward. Her mother picks her up from an archaeological camp, and she comes home to find that her mother has gotten engaged while she is gone. Now, the interesting part of this is that the mother is very obsessed with the man that she is going to be married, but the daughter is also oddly attracted to him. There's a ton of sexual tension in the film. It's very awkward and uncomfortable. It seems like he has a hold over the mom that probably wouldn't be in place otherwise. It seems like the mom really does love the daughter, but some weird things happen in there, so it seems like he has definitely a pull over her and also a pull over the daughter a little bit too. So he is actually a scientist. He is in the area to study the biology of the lake. He is also researching lampreys, I think they're called. His obsession with them is that they can live in both saltwater and freshwater, and apparently the only species to do so. So his research is trying to figure out how that is possible. The movie goes on from there, where Liberty starts to realize that there's something a little odd about her stepfather, and that he might not exactly be human. As the story unfolds, we find that he is an evil mermaid? I don't know. It seems like probably a being from another planet, and his main purpose is to reproduce and to create a new species that is better well developed for saltwater, question mark? That's kind of what it seems, because he himself is quite allergic to the substance. That is kind of the main premise of the film, but it's kind of interesting too because you're watching it and you're like, okay, well, is this just a coming of age story about this girl? Because she is very much so growing into an adult. She doesn't want to be called baby girl anymore. So it seems like it could be like a kid lusting after her soon-to-be stepfather. But I guess you could also say that there's some maybe comment on misogyny in there. There's a lot of phallic imagery, and there is a scene with multiple men where you could kind of talk about, I don't know, maybe that showing their power or dominance over the female. Or is it just a tale about a murderous mermaid? I don't know. Now, I also will say there are some odd similarities to The Little Mermaid, like this scene and this scene. It's also said that he has kind of this obsession with redheads throughout the film too, which is kind of odd too because of The Little Mermaid. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that is something that I picked up on that I thought was kind of interesting. It's like a sinister reverse Little Mermaid. But I did want to read you a few comments from the director. I thought that these were pretty interesting. Okay, so he talks about the films that inspired this one. So he says, Let the Right One In, Under the Skin, Get Out. And then he's talking about Get Out here, and he says, Get Out is a great example of that because even if you get rid of the whole creepy underbelly, there's still a story in the discrete racism of the family, and that's why it's such a dynamic horror movie. I definitely wanted to try to take those ideas and help them influence What Lies Below. So to me, I'm thinking that maybe on the surface level, it's about killer mermaids, but when you kind of dig deeper, it has maybe more of a deep meaning. What that is exactly, I don't know. I can only speculate on a few things that I picked up. He also talks about working with the cinematographer, because what I really enjoyed about this film, which I'm going to get into a few things that I really enjoyed, but I really enjoyed how they use light in this film. For example, there's one scene where the young daughter walks in on her mother and her soon-to-be stepfather. doing stuff. There's this like immense green light that's radiating at her, and for me it was kind of a comment on her jealousy over perhaps her mom's relationship with this man. But that's just my thought, and it could be anything. But there is a lot of color used like that. Kind of like if you've seen the movie Mandy, there's color used in that as well. Not that I'm comparing the two at all, but just in that sense of color used to indicate different things. It says, I talked to the cinematographer about the movie. I told him that I wanted to use colors like we've never seen before. I wanted it to feel different and not normal through all of this, and to convey that through color. The movie even begins with a more saturated look to make it feel like a rom-com, but we tried to progressively desaturate it and bring in those odd colors. I think there's definitely motive behind things like that, the color, although they may not be evidently clear as I think the green was used. Maybe not all the color makes perfect sense the first watch around, but it is kind of interesting to think about color going in to watch this. Let me talk about a few scenes that I really liked. There's a scene where the girl gets bit by a, oh god, every time I say this word I get the chills. I hate them so much. A centipede. Ugh, I can't even say the word. She gets bit by that disgusting thing, and she goes to step on it, and he's like, whoa, 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 and he lifts up a piece of wood, and there's a bunch of little babies, and he's like, they're just protecting their babies. This scene I really enjoyed because it's a big foreshadowing moment in the film where he's basically saying like, hey, you're not gonna like what's happening, but I'm just trying to protect my own species. I'm just trying to be able to make this kind of weird human, alien, mermaid, evil hybrid and be able to survive in salt water. Let me just say that there hasn't been a movie that has made me like actually brought out a physical response in me in a long time. Not to say that this movie is scary, but it's just odd and uncomfortable. The way that he makes these scenes and makes the audience feel uncomfortable, I think is quite difficult. So I think he did a really great job at making you feel very uncomfortable when you're watching the movie. Those were my favorite scenes in the film, I think, was just feeling so gross watching it. Now let's talk about a few spoilers. So if you care at all, skip over. So this I want to read, this is from the director as well. This is from 2 different articles, and he says, as for Liberty, I can say the opening shot of the film is a sister to the final shot. The first is coming down, and the final is going up. So keep that in mind. So the final scene was my favorite scene. It was, I think, the best part of the film. The reason that the final shot has everyone in these water tanks is because they're all being prepared to be taken away to an all-water planet. The blue light is to allow them, hopefully, to breathe underwater. The last shot is where all of this is supposed to come together and click in, which not everyone may understand, but I love the debate it generates. But basically, I guess what he's saying is that his intention was to show that they are some sort of alien form that is coming, procreating with humans, and then bringing them back to an all-water planet. Although I'm assuming that the water planet is all salt water, and so he's trying to adapt to be able to fit that lifestyle as opposed to his own planet, which who knows what happened to that. But then also another point of foreshadowing is that John is touching water or drinking water in every scene, which I thought was really interesting because when you're watching it, it's not something that you necessarily pick up on, but he's standing in the lake, he's holding water, he is around water constantly. So I thought that was kind of a cool foreshadowing moment as well. As far as the monster goes, you never really see him in his true form. You do see parts of him, a leg, an arm here and there, which he is kind of this scaly reptilian fish kind of being. When I first saw that the movie was about killer mermaids, I really did think about this scene, which is of course the merman scene from the Cabin in the Woods. That's what I envisioned, and so I thought it was going to be a very like campy film. I'm not really huge into monster films unless they're done really well, which is difficult. It's challenging. So I really did think it was going to be a little campy, and although that I don't love the aspect of like a monster film necessarily, it's not something that really scares me. I did kind of think that this was pretty fun. Now let me say, it's not the best movie that's ever been made, but I thought that it was kind of a cool first film for this director and writer. I think it's cool that he's gotten so much talk and hype about it, whether people are upset or confused or angry or happy. I think that's all kind of adds to the mystery of the film. I think that it did its job, right? It's to get people talking, and that's exactly what it did. I think there's also a lot in there that's kind of buried that you probably have to watch the film a few times to maybe unearth some new things. But there were a lot of scenes that I really enjoyed. The very last scene So, spoiler here, the very last scene is the girl, so her stepfather throws up this ball of light into her mouth and makes her swallow it, and then she like passes out, and the last scene is her in this kind of coffin of water, and she's, you know, freaking out, can't breathe, and then she inhales because she's running out of oxygen, and she realizes that she can breathe, and there's a smile on her face. And so there you're like, okay, is she happy that she's alive, or is she happy that she can join him and she's, you know, kind of, it seems like chosen to be something. He gives her some sort of bracelet from like a fertility goddess or something. So it really seems like she's the one that's chosen, because as that last scene pulls out, there are other women around, but she's the only one that's awake. And so you're like, are the others dead? I don't know. I really don't know. But that last scene, you really don't know her intention behind it. You don't know if she's happy to be alive. You don't know if she's happy so she can seek revenge. You have no idea what's going on. And I kind of really like that ambiguous ending. Let me read you a few comments of what people said about this film. What Lies Below was the dumbest and most confusing movie ever. Another one. I feel like Netflix puts movies at the top 10 so we can be tricked into watching and wasting our fucking time. What Lies Below on Netflix is absolutely terrible and is rated #1 because so many people are watching it and then being disappointed. And then another, please don't watch the weirdest and most confusing ever, like Netflix, what the fuck. What Lies Below on Netflix is the absolute worst movie I've ever watched. It makes no sense and the ending makes you even more confused and there's no explanation whatsoever. I'm so mad and I wasted my time watching it. But here's the thing. I think about horror fans, and I think why we're such passionate people is I think that even if we watch a movie like this, it might not be our favorite film, it may not be our genre, but there are some things that I could pick out that I really enjoyed. I see potential in this writer and director, and I'm kind of excited to see what he's going to do in the future. He's even talked about making part 2 of this, perhaps. Now, I don't think it was necessarily confusing. Not all the questions are answered, absolutely, and you can kind of come up to your own interpretation of a lot of things, but I don't necessarily know that it was confusing and you didn't know what was happening. So I think I was confused that so many other people were confused. I think I was more just grossed out. It's a weird movie and it does make you very uncomfortable, and I like being uncomfortable when I watch things. Maybe it's 2021 talking, but I will accept any horror film this year with wide open arms. I appreciate everything new. And you know what? We're all so sick of seeing the same things every time. Maybe instead of hating on a movie, maybe we just try to understand it from their perspective. I thought that the movie was interesting, but then I read a lot of interviews with the director, and I enjoyed a lot of what he said, and I thought that he was really passionate about what he did, and that's all we can ask for as horror fans, right? To get someone who's passionate and loves what they're doing and is making something unique, even if it's not exactly for us. So at the end of the day, I did kind of enjoy this film. It wasn't the best thing I've ever seen, but I thought it was cool for a first-time director. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was so confusing, but then again, there were a lot of unanswered questions that I really enjoyed as well. So let me know what you think of it. And by the way, if you hate this film, that's totally fine too. But let me know what you think. Let me know your theories. I'm really interested. You guys always provide me with your interesting insight into different books and films and stuff. So let me know what you guys thought of this, and I will see you on Thursday with another horror video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.